Finally, we have reached our first video about documentation. In this one, we're going to talk about concept brief specifically, which is the main reference for creative direction. Different companies might use different naming conventions, but the most common one I've seen is this one. So, what does a concept brief include? Well, everything that we have talked about in previous videos. The project vision, the pillars with their explanation, the core loop, the fantasy and themes, and last but not least, a lot of times it includes market research and budget information, though the latter is usually done in case you pitch within a larger company, but honestly, pitching is a whole different topic that I'm not going to cover here. We will talk about the internal, high-level foundation of the whole project. How to structure the brief. It is important to start with a vision, but then whatever follows next from all the other aspects is up to you. My personal suggestion is on the screen now. Regardless of how you structure your brief, unless you're working alone, don't use walls of text. There are even experienced designers who love long stretches of words, and that is the worst way to explain anything. So rule number 1. Use images and schematics as much as possible. Images don't have to be your concept arts necessarily, or anything that you'll actually put in-game, it can be just something found online. But visualization always helps to get your point across better than text. And use prototype screenshots or videos as well, because by this point you should have some. Rule number 2. Whatever text you do have left, make sure to lean it down as much as possible. Keep only the most important parts. Remember, the point of a concept brief is to set a good direction, but other than that, it should tease the imagination with all the possibilities of how that direction can potentially be implemented. So don't go overboard with extra details, because as we discussed previously, details are likely to change a lot. Concept brief is about stabilizing things on a high level. Next, when to work on your brief. Well, a brief can be your starting point, but it very rarely is. Usually this document is a result of months of exploration as the team was discovering what all the important aspects of the game are, meaning vision, pillars, and so on. But there is no right or wrong answer here, it all depends on how your project came into existence. How long should the brief be? It depends, though if it takes more than 10-15 minutes to explain the core premise of your game and principles of your project, it is probably too long. Some people say that a brief needs to be the size of an elevator pitch, no more than 60 seconds. I do not agree with that. The elevator pitch should be the size of an elevator pitch, while the brief should be a structured and thought-out explanation of the game and the direction. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't have additional details or anything, just that the core part of your document should be pretty lean and self-sufficient. Now, what format should the brief be? If you work alone or just with several people, a Word document is fine. Otherwise, use PowerPoint presentations, those are better for getting a point across a larger amount of people. Plus, well, you will usually have to present this document and slideshows are more comfortable for that. A question I have heard a number of times is if concept briefs should contain the list of features. You can add that, but only of the most important ones. A full list of features is definitely a separate document and goes beyond the purposes of a concept brief. However, what you should have defined in your concept brief is your approximate scope. How small or big you want the game to be. It will help to define the approximate time, amount of people, and budget needed. Having no idea what your scope is always leads to problems during production. Ultimately, and I know I've said this several times already, but it is worth repeating, the purpose of a concept brief is to tell about your game's overall direction in a clean and efficient manner. It is not a design document, it is not a production doc, it is not a tech doc. It is an alignment tool to make sure that all members of your team are on the same page regarding all important aspects of the game. And then, after everyone has aligned, you can start working on the actual details. And we'll talk about processes related to that later down the series. However, we'll close the creative direction section of our series with several videos of a more philosophical level, so to speak. So be sure to subscribe and click on the bell button to know when those will come out. And I would like to thank my patrons for supporting my channel. If you like what you're seeing here, feel free to go to patreon.com/farlands and consider supporting my campaign. Thank you very much.